Hello, you're listening to Abstract AF. I'm Sneha Jaswal, and this is another edition of 10 book reviews under 10 minutes, but a graphic novel edition. You can even consider this as a book recommendation list because all 10 of them were pretty interesting or great. So, number one on the list is Sunburn by Andy Watson and Simone Gain. The story is about 16-year-old Rachel who gets invited to spend her summer vacation in Greece by her father's friends. Now, she doesn't know these people and expects a boring holiday with an old couple, but it turns out to be one of the most exciting summers in her life, spent in the beautiful green shores of Greece, where she meets an interesting boy, falls in love, and also goes through a heartbreak. The book reminded me of the French classic Bonjour, Tristesse by François Sagan. The graphic novel has some great artwork, and Sunburn feels like a quick, swift, beautiful postcard from Greece. Moving on to number two, it's called Crema by Johnny Christmas and Dante Lewis. I really loved the first few pages of this book because it has coffee as its major theme, and the first chapter is titled The Last Roast. And just as you read the book, you can feel the smell of some great coffee, and it really transports you into the world of the protagonist. She's a girl called Esme who drinks a lot of coffee and can see ghosts. Crema was actually an awkward blend of supernatural elements with good old traditional romance, but overall, because the artwork is beautiful, it made for an enjoyable read and is a 3 on 5 from me. Number 3, A Boy and a Girl by Jamie S. Rich and Natalie Nurigat. Now, this was an interesting sci-fi romance. It's about these two people called Travis and Charlie who meet at a weird party, a party being thrown by a man for his mother's debut because she's a human-like robot resembling his dead mom. So it's basically set in a world where lifelike machines are replacing humans, so you don't know who's real and who's a droid. What I loved about this book was that most of the events unfold in about 48 hours, and despite being a futuristic story, it still feels so traditional and old school. The artwork is very simple with clean lines and is drenched in blue shades, which gives a surreal, nostalgic charm to the futuristic novel. Depending on how the viewer perceives it, the ending either will seem too abrupt or a perfect poetic ending to Charlie and Travis's love story. It's a 4 on 5 for me. Okay, moving on to number 4. It's Cold Iron. It's not a graphic novel, but actually a comic series. It has 4 issues, but I read the deluxe edition with all 4 issues rolled into one book, which is available on Kindle Unlimited. And it was a weird, interesting, folklorish fantasy story which follows an aspiring musician called Kay who lives with her grandmother and feels stuck in her island life. But her life turns upside down when she hits a young girl with a car and the two women encounter a sinister talking goat. Kay learns that some of her grandmother's tales about talking beasts and hidden paths and fairy rings were all true, and that the young girl that she hits is in a lot of trouble. The illustrations in this book are quite retro in style. It has a dark palette that lends a very 80s horror comic strip-like atmosphere to the tale, which makes the reader expect a lot more action and excitement and some surprising plot twists, but the creators don't have that kind of material to offer. Despite that, the story makes for a decent read for fantasy fiction fans. Okay, moving on to number 5, the only 5 on 5 on this list. It's called Acucon Cove by Kay O'Neill. Now, I actually have read a lot of graphic novels by Kay O'Neill, and some of them were slightly disappointing. But one thing about the author and illustrator is that her drawings are so simple, cute, and brightly colorful that you can feel the optimism jump out of the pages and fill you with that kind of warmth and love. Acucon Cove is a simple, sweet story about a girl called Lana who goes with her father to her island hometown, where she helps her aunt and the locals deal with the devastating effects of a really bad storm that hit their small town. One day she finds a creature that looks like a seahorse and it's injured, and Lana tries to restore it back to its full health and eventually learns from her aunt that there's a beautiful, glorious underwater life there with magical creatures whose way of life is getting damaged because of overfishing and overexploitation by human beings. It reminded me of this Studio Ghibli movie called Ponyo that I absolutely love. It's one of their underrated titles. And similarly, I feel like Acucon Cove is a brilliant book for children to learn about in a simple way how human beings and their activities are really detrimental to aquatic life. It's a lovely, cozy little book and is an absolute 5 on 5 from me. Moving on to graphic novel number 6, it's called The Secret Garden, a graphic novel adaptation of the children's classic by Maria Marston and Hannah Leuchtfeld. Now, honestly, I don't think I've read the original classic by Frances Hodgson Burnett, so I thought that maybe reading a graphic novel adaptation would be a quicker way of familiarizing myself with the classic, and it turned out to be a good decision. I could make out that a lot of original material didn't make it to the adaptation, and yet it manages to be a beautiful read about 10-year-old Mary Lennox who's brought to a secluded estate of her uncle when her parents pass away. Mary discovers the key to a secluded, abandoned, secret garden on the property and decides to bring it back to life. She also makes a few interesting friends along the way, and the story is really about how nature can really heal and connect people with each other. The illustrations are quite nice, and I feel like the graphic novel adaptation is a perfect pick for those who have been wanting to read the original but can't really find the time. Next up on the list is The Closet, which is a 3-part comic series by James Tynion Ford and Gavin Fullerton and Chris O'Halloran. The story is about married man Tom, who is packing up his family to a new city, hoping that it will help ease things between his wife. Their marriage is strained, and also their son is having regular nightmares about a monster in his closet. The Closet isn't your traditional out-and-out horror comic series, but instead is more of a metaphorical, psychological horror story about how horrifyingly scarring human relationships can be. It's a pretty clever, quick book, and it's best that you read all 3 issues together to enjoy it. Now to a fun graphic novel called What If Viva by Axel Lenoir, or Lenoir, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but anyway, this is just like the title suggests. It's about 2 best friends who play this game called What If We Were, where the friends pick a hypothetical situation and then discuss what they would do if they were in such a situation. Honestly, don't go expecting a lot of story. This was just pure entertainment about 2 friends having fun and playing games with each other. The artwork was also bubbly and cute, and I don't know, I really liked it and gave it a 4 on 5, so check it out if you want. It's available to read for free if you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. Now to number 9 on my list. It's called Cocherade by Vesco Flor and Karis Court. I don't know again how it's pronounced, but oh wow, this was such a mad graphic novel with whimsical sarcasm about a girl going out in the world and trying to make a place for herself. The protagonist is called Serene, and the story unfolds in the distant past in the worlds of kings and queens and court jesters. The book has the kind of eccentricity that made Alice in Wonderland such a classic. But again, Alice in Wonderland is not for everybody, nor is the Cocherade. Unfortunately, the ending was a little predictable, but despite that, this was a pretty fun read. Now to the 10th and last title. It's called Sheets by Brenna Tumler. It's about this 13-year-old who is running the family laundry business because her mom passed away and her father slipped into depression, and how her business is ruined by the ghost of a young boy. First off, I think the artwork was splendid. It was bright and had this pastel-like element to it that just made it sad, yet beautiful to look at. For a graphic novel, it's a little too long. It's 239 pages, and the story could have been trimmed. But regardless, Brenna Tumler spins a very interesting tale about loss and how sometimes tragedy forces children to grow up and take responsibilities of the adults in their world. It's a 4 on 5 from me. Read it for the gorgeous illustrations, and that's it. Those were 10 graphic novels reviewed under 10 minutes. Talk to you the next time.